The F1 world is craving a world title battle. While we may not be getting one between different teams, Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez are at least trying to give us something to watch. But does Checo really stand a chance against Verstappen? And are the Red Bull favoring the Dutchman? Stick around to find out why Checo couldn't match Max and if Red Bull is actually favoring Max over Checo. Max Verstappen and Red Bull are absolutely dominant, with the team really in its own league. The Dutchman was the first driver since Niki Lauda to win a race from P9. And the scary thing is, it was almost expected for Max to win the race, and his teammate was absolutely helpless to his pace. However, there may be more to the Mexican's race than meets the eye. We'll be honest. The Miami GP was underwhelming, and the off-track glitz and glam outweighed the on-track entertainment. With Red Bull so far in front, and Mercedes and Ferrari struggling, it meant a rather boring race. I think the only one that may have been more bored than the spectators was Fernando Alonso, with the Aston Martin driver behind the Red Bull and so far in front of the middle pack that he even had time to look at the big screen to let him know he had just pulled off a great move. The real story of the day was of Red Bull, with the team clearly leagues ahead. The Milton Keynes-based team had a mixed bag after qualifying, with Sergio in pole and Max P9 after Charles Leclerc's crash threw a spanner in the works of most teams' qualifying runs, with teams only able to get a banker lap in before qualifying was stopped completely. Even with Max P9, Horner was quick to point out that Sergio needed to be careful of Max's ability as he's done this all before. Everything is possible. Max has done it from 15th before, so you just don't know, he added. You can't rule out the other teams. It's going to be a really exciting race. Fernando up there as well. It's gonna be interesting, said Horner. And the race panned out exactly as people thought. At lights out, Perez maintained position, with the only major contact being at the back between Nick de Vries and Lando Norris, and began to pull away as Verstappen moved his way through the pack. On lap number 4, the number 1 car passed both Leclerc and Kevin Magnussen at turn 1, before also dispatching George Russell, Pierre Gasly, Carlos Sainz and Alonso over the next few laps to run 3.9 seconds behind Perez when assuming second place on lap 15. Verstappen began to whittle away at Perez's advantage before the leader came in at the end of lap 20, just as he was about to be 1 second and DRS activation ahead of the chasing RB19.
Kilometre an hour top speed advantage, and Sainz under braking.
On his hards, Perez emerged about 15 seconds down on Verstappen, but with 20 seconds needed for a pit stop would emerge ahead. However, over the course of the stint, Verstappen pulled that closer to 1 second. When he became the last driver to pit at the end of lap 45, Perez reassumed the lead, but Verstappen was only just 1.2 seconds behind, and he had 25 lap fresher tyres on the softer medium compound. A cautious Verstappen backed out of a move on lap 45 at turn 17, but made the move stick at turn 1 on lap 48 and just pulled away for the victory. In taking the win and fastest lap bonus point, Verstappen has pulled out 8 points on Perez to extend his lead to 14 points, while also matching Sebastian Vettel's tally of 38 wins for the team. Sergio clearly thought he could win the race, a fan favorite in Miami and many hoping he would go on to win, but ultimately just fell short. Such is the current dominance of Red Bull that Sergio Perez is bitterly disappointed with his second place finish. Still, we all know what it comes down to in the end, and that is consistency. And that's exactly what Max Verstappen is so good at. Perez is the street track king, but in Miami, he couldn't quite get it right and got lucky in qualifying after really struggling in free practice. The Mexican opened up about what ultimately cost him the race victory. "I tried, I gave it all, he said. I think the first stint was really poor with the graining that we had on that initial pace. That compromised the race quite a lot because we didn't have too much of a difference on tyres. Max was particularly strong today, so a well-deserved win for him." Perez also highlighted the decision he believed that cost him the race, when he found that the medium tyre proved unexpectedly poor, a critical phase of the race as Verstappen made good progress on the hards. "I think the medium was initially really poor. It was unexpected," he said. "I think that really compromised our race. And I also think Max had tremendous pace on the hard tyre, and I think I'm going to analyze what went wrong today because we simply didn't have the pace." Now, the choice to put Perez on the mediums and Verstappen on the hards may look funny to any new F1 fan, but ultimately, Red Bull had to split their strategy, and with Max having the option to take a slightly higher risk than Perez as he was not in pole position. Still, the Dutchman ultimately reaped the benefits, with the hard tyres being a better option to start with, as the medium tires at the end were much better. Now, this may have looked like favoritism at the end of the race as Max was ultimately able to beat Checo, but that wasn't really where there were many people questioning the favoritism, with Sky Sports pundit Anthony Davidson questioning Red Bull's lack of communication to Sergio Perez during the F1 Miami Grand Prix. Having been keeping track of Red Bull communication to both their drivers throughout the closing stages of the race,
Lewis Hamilton sees the Red Bull going around the outside.
Davidson noted that it was strange how little information Perez was offered compared to his teammate. Davidson said Perez was effectively driving blind, heading into his late race showdown with Verstappen. Really strange listening to Perez's radio, said Davidson. They haven't told him anything about this fight between himself and Max, whereas on Verstappen's side of the garage, it's been constant. We've heard it coming through from his engineer, that constant check on the relative gap between himself and his teammate. So Perez has been out there in a way driving blind. Very odd. It's been too quiet on his radio, said Davidson. Most F1 fans will know that at some point in the season that a team will favor one driver over another, but only once that driver has established a significant lead, and then they will shift focus on making sure they can win the title with Red Bull dominance. This is certainly not the stage for any favoritism, and Horner did let everyone know that Checo was getting regular updates on what he needed to do to push Max, and in the end, Sergio just couldn't do it, with even Marco weighing in that both drivers raced beautifully. The decisive thing was that Max managed to overtake midfield drivers relatively quickly on his hard tires. The hard tire was better than expected beforehand. Max can set incredible times in extreme situations, and he showed that today. We said as soon as there's no immediate danger lurking from behind, let them race. And thank God they're both smart enough not to hit each other, he said. Checo was not prepared to give in just like that. And it got a little tight because they were both racing at the limit, Marco said. Now, the really terrible news for Sergio is that the next period of races is where Max will really begin to stretch his legs. With the current world champion really able to extend his lead in 2022 during this period of the season, with most people wanting there to be a battle for one world title or another, but let's be honest, there isn't going to be one.
For the second lap running, has retaken the lead and has come out.
Verstappen in this car is too quick and too consistent, and that is what wins you titles. Could we possibly see the other teams finally wake up and challenge Red Bull? Christian Horner said that Red Bull has been scratching their heads with surprise at the gap between themselves and their pursuing rivals. Red Bull claimed another 1-2 finish in the Miami Grand Prix, with Max Verstappen leading home Sergio Perez to open up a 14-point lead in the Drivers' Championship. 5 races, 5 wins plus the sprint, 4 1-2 finishes. We've never had a start like this, and we're kind of wondering, where are the others? We've made a normal step, or what we thought, over the winter. And I think it's more, where did Ferrari and Mercedes go? I think you'll see in the next race there's big upgrades coming, and we're just having to be super selective in terms of what we test and how we develop the car, Horner told Sky F1. So what do you think? Does Sergio have a chance? And will Ferrari and Mercedes finally catch Red Bull? Comment below, let us know your thoughts.